Hi, Addy D here. In this video, we're going to analyze the song Easy by Joanna Newsom. This is the first track from Joanna's stunning 2010 triple album, Have One on Me. While many of the songs on this record seem daunting and complex on first impact, once the deeper structure is unearthed, it's easy to see how a lot of musical interest was generated out of a reasonable amount of material, not as much as it may seem. A big lesson here is in arranging, and we've got to give credit to Ryan Francesconi for his superb contributions to the arrangements on Have One on Me. I've broken it down into three sections, which I'll refer to as A, B. I've broken it down into three main sections, which I'll refer to as A, B, and C, each 16 measures long, basically consisting of an 8-bar progression, repeating with a little variation sometimes. What I'll be doing here to walk us through it is really a case of arranger's piano. The aim not really being to play the piece in a super convincing way, but kind of fudging all the parts together, stumbling through it to get a grasp of how the voicing works and what's happening in the harmony. Sometimes rolling into chords that are a bit too wide and making extensive use of that sustain pedal. Let's go. One thing I find fascinating in the introduction A section is how a pretty short and cyclical chord progression reveals itself little by little. From the first measure consisting of a single note, the harmony slowly begins to blossom in such a way that is truly the perfect invitation to this sprawling garden of music Joanna has given us on Have One on Me. By holding back certain chord tones, things feel open and ambiguous, and more is made from less. It isn't until the second piano verse that we get to hear the A section chords plainly and with proper bass notes. But let's check out what our source material is here before we see how Joanna and Ryan deconstructed it. Start with the 4 chords: D flat major 7, G, B flat, and F. The melody tells us that G has a suspension on the 4 that will resolve down to the major 3rd. Repeat it to make an 8-bar phrase, and the second time end on F minor, furthering the ambiguity of a resting place. And lastly, melody informs us of a few other chord extensions on the second round, some sharp 11s and 7ths. It's a revolving door progression that drifts between colors of F minor and F major. The center of the phrase pulls to F major, while the edges of it lean towards F minor. It's the push and pull that many of us look for when we write chord progressions. It's also worthwhile to check out the common tones that string each of these chords together as we move horizontally. Independently of this analysis, I've developed a fascination with the coexistence of those two borrowed major chords. That would be the flat 6 and the 2. For another view, let's dip into functional harmony to see if we can track down what family these chords could have come from. One could say that the dominant key of C major gives us that major 2 chord, G, which would be the 5 chord in C, and that the parallel minor key, F minor, lent us that flat 6 chord, D flat. And while these are both common places to borrow from to make the major key more interesting, it usually goes one way or the other for a period of time. G and D flat are major chords a tritone apart. Joanna, however, has stuck them boldly side by side. It's like two distant cousins of F major who never talk and are opposite sides of the family, having to share a 2-hour car ride. With the gift of hindsight, we can now say that this first lone C note that begins the piece is the major 7 of D flat major 7. And what I mistakenly called F minor with an added ninth here is the upper structure of the next D flat major 7 sharp 11 chord. Not that it really matters, but it's a helpful lesson from the compositional standpoint that there is a deeper structure the arranger is referring to that can be fractured and turned into almost skeletal counterpoint. Let's listen again to the reduced orchestration of the first A section, and note how it takes its time to get to a clear, fully voiced chord. I see the B section as more decidedly an F major. At least that's where it wants to resolve at the ends of phrases, which is most telling. I'm convinced when I hear D minor, that sixth chord, clearly a part of the F major family, though we still have plenty of borrowed tones from F minor. And that major 2 chord, G. The first line of B is in a spread voicing, covering a wide frequency range, the piano kind of making a spacious envelope around the vocal in the center. The second line begins in a closed voicing, with these tightly voiced staccato chords in the strings that the vocal kind of lives within. As you can see a bit too close, my hands kind of have to fight for real estate. And I absolutely love this transition into the C section. 4 chords that sweep us off our feet like a magic carpet ride into pure F Aeolian minor, by way of cool, mellow 7th chords, walking up from the 5, 6, 7, to get to the 1, now F minor. And these 4 strong pulses serve to crescendo from the B to the C section. It's really a very simple but effective concept, a key change combined with a dynamic change. One or the other is notable, but in this instance we have double the cues that something important is taking place and are naturally drawn in. The C section dives right into minor 1-5-4 blues changes, like the angsty, despondent 16-year-old brother of a more jovial 1-5-4 country song. Kicking it off with these colors, the C section is in pure modal F minor Aeolian, abandoning all previously abundant F major colors. But the primary interest of section C is actually rhythmic. All of the phrases start on beat 4, or anticipate the downbeat, one could say. Also, the first half of the line has this tight, jaunty groove, then the second half opens up into long, drawn-out chords, where the syncopations further obscure the sense of time, with no backbeat to keep us oriented. play through my reduction of the first A, B, and C sequentially, though admittedly I had to make a few cuts. Thanks as always. I hope you enjoyed my analysis. Let me know what you all think.